And the recorder is on.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. I want to introduce myself. My name is Melissa Washington. I am the CEO and founder of Women Veterans Alliance. And we have put together this webinar today for veteran entrepreneurs. And even if you're not a veteran, you are more than welcome to listen in, as we are in a ever-changing time. And Katie Redding, who is an Army veteran, is going to talk about all the misconceptions right now about federal funding, and as we know, this is a very fluid and very ever-changing situation. But just a little bit about Katie before we get into this is Katie has been working with government contracts since 2006. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology. She has worked with contracts averaging from $300,000 to $5 million annually. She's certified through the CPUC and has many, many projects. She's also a disabled veteran business enterprise through DGS for California. She also holds SDVOSB for federal contracts. And we are recording this. And so for all of you, after the call, we will send you this link for further information, as well as additional contact information for you to connect with Katie directly. This will be, Katie will answer the questions at the end, and please use the chat feature to type your questions in so she can answer that. So without further ado, there's a lot of information to go through. Katie, it's all over to you.
Welcome everybody, and I know this is a lot of information that you're hearing and it's out everywhere, and I want to assure you that I am getting the most updated information directly from the SBA and the Treasury Department, and I have kept everything as up to date as possible, but know that things can change minute to minute. Melissa, I appreciate you inviting me. Thank you very much, and I'm excited to kind of help you guys navigate through this process so that we can help you and your business get some money when needed. So as Melissa said, there's going to be a lot of questions. Please feel free to put them in chat. I should cover most of the basics, and I will answer at the end questions that are that would, you know, kind of apply to everyone. And if we have time, we'll then go into more personal questions. So thank you very much. And we're going to start by, Melissa kind of told you who I was. Oh, how do I flip to the next slide? There we go. Okay, so there are 4 different options to get help right now from the federal government. The 2 that I'm going to go over today are the ones that I am most familiar with because they apply directly to small businesses, micro businesses, people who don't even have a business license, independent contractors, housekeepers, landscapers, people who get paid cash, tips. Those kind of things are the government is really working to cover, and that's my direction of what I have done my research and stayed on top of. So I'm going to give you the information based on that perspective, because most of my clients are not people with over 500 employees. If they have 1, maybe up to 12 kind of thing. So there's 2 different kinds of loan. I would encourage you to apply for both. Regardless of whether you take the money or not, there is no fee to apply for either one. You can get both. They will take into account each other's amounts that you are given. But I'm going to separate that, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. The first one is the PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Plan. And this has to be applied for directly at your bank. If you don't have a bank or a business bank, then you can go to one of the major ones that I'll share a link for a little bit later. But most of the banks right now are struggling to get their applications out to begin with. And secondly, a lot of them are only taking their current customers. So if you have an account at Wells Fargo, for example, Wells Fargo took all the inquiries they could. They opened it up on the 3rd of April, and they believe they are going to be maxed out at their giving capacity, their loaning capacity, and have stopped even accepting inquiries. So quite a few banks will probably come to that, but there will be a link that will take you to every bank that is somewhat major that's offering the PPP. If your bank is not on the list, call or go to your website, ask if they are 7A lender approved. If they are, then most likely they'll be doing the PPP and we'll give you more information. I have a small bank myself and they, maybe have 10 branches. They are doing it, but we do not have an application yet. So the first thing I want to tell you is that it's first come, first serve. As I spoke about with Wells Fargo, they are already done taking applications. I don't know how to explain that other than once we get to the max, the government through the bill is directed to increase funds, but there's no guarantee on that. So first come, first serve means get your application in the minute you can. Even if you just call your bank, pick up the phone, call your bank, ask what you can do to get on their waiting list, which is what I've done with my bank. I also have an application that is from the Treasury Department. That is what the Treasury Department sent to the banks and said, base your application off this. So I wouldn't necessarily take the time to fill it out, but I would look over it, make sure that you have all of that accessible information, your taxes, your profit and loss, whatever they're asking on that application, which I will share. So the best part of this is it can be fully forgiven. That means that it is written as a loan, but then the government says you don't have to pay me back if you follow the guidelines. Now, the guidelines, the purpose of this is to keep our people employed, keep paying people who live paycheck to paycheck and need to eat today. So 75% of your loan, as long as that's used for payroll, will be forgiven. In addition to payroll, you can include mortgage interest, a rent payment, utility payments, any type of leave, family leave, sick leave for your employees. If you have no employees and you're an independent contractor, your amount of money, whether it's written on your taxes as profit just from the business or not on your taxes, is what this is going to be based on. So I'll go through a calculation of how we do that in a moment. But right now, which has changed 4 times, the loan, even on the part that is not forgiven, is only at 1%, amortized over 2 to 10 years, and no payments for 6 months. So even if you don't get a grant to cover everything you need, the loan will cover that at an extremely low interest rate. So it is calculated 250% times your average monthly payroll cost during the period that's covered. That period is February 15th to June 30th, 4.5 months. So when I get to the calculation, that will kind of give you the idea of where that's coming from. So the EIDL loan is a little bit different, but has a lot of the same guidelines. In order to get the $10,000 grant that is coming to all of us that qualify, you have to apply for the EIDL. It does not mean you have to take it, and we're a little unsure at this point of whether that means you have to qualify for it. The wording on the SBA site has changed numerous times in the last 5 days, but at this current point, it says within days of a successful application. So we don't know if that means that you actually filled out the form correctly or if it means you will be approved. And I can't answer that, I'm sorry. I am going off the assumption that it means you filled out the application correctly. You marked the I am a US citizen. You've given them accurate information. So it is applied for directly at the SBA and not the bank. It is separate but related to. So again, I want you to apply for both. It is a very short application. It is an online fill in the blank. It won't let you pass a spot if it's required, and it walks you right through it. The things that you're going to need to have ready are your 12-month expenses and income. That is what it's going to be based on. You can get up to $10,000. So my employee payroll is around $5,000 a month. During that 8-week period, I will obviously use the full $10,000 on payroll alone, but I have other expenses beyond that. I have mortgage payments, I have utilities, I have mandatory advertising. Well, nowhere is listed advertising. So where is that going to be covered? I don't know. If it's not covered under the grant in the first 10,000, and it is not covered in the forgivable part of the PPP, then it's possible to take this loan as well. And I want all options available to me. I want to know what is at my fingertips so that when I have to make payroll, there's money there to do so. My mortgage payment for my own personal house is waiting at the moment because I want to make sure that I have things to take care of my employees. So that's the goal of this whole process, is how do we take care of our employees? Okay, we're gonna move on possibly. There we go. Okay, so the PPP loan, as we mentioned, Wells Fargo is currently at capacity. I put a couple links for some of the main banks. US Bank is an application right online. It's simple. It is not the full application. I imagine that they will be asking you for all that information after. There is also a link at the bottom that will give you a variety of different banks. I think there was about 40 on there. So feel free to look on that link, find your bank. If it's there, great. If not, just start putting inquiries in at every bank. For example, a Wells Fargo client right now that's been a customer of Wells Fargo and has no other banks. Wells Fargo's at capacity. What do? Go to every bank and send in an inquiry until you find one that will accept an application from non-current customers. Right now, nobody has advertised that, but it doesn't mean they're not taking it. A few have advertised they're only taking their current customers, but nobody has said, come here. So that is the suggestion in order, is go to your bank first, then go to this list. Okay, so how much do I qualify for? How do I know how much money I'm gonna get, and is it even worth my time? And wouldn't it be better just to let them get unemployment? And there's all those kind of questions that I wanna try and help you with a little bit. So if you look at the bottom, the period that we are looking at is this 4.5 month period from February 15th to June 30th. You get 250% of your average monthly payroll, and then that will be forgiven if at least 75% of your loan amount was used for payroll, which includes yourself, regardless of how you get that money on a 1099 as profit from your business. However, it does include your wages. If you look over at my taxes, I put up here in the corner to show you where what form you're looking for and exactly the figure that you're looking for. I used my 2018s because my 2019s are not done yet, and that's the figure that I put in. So if you look at the little red calculation here, so I took that number off my taxes, 163,000. Divided that by 12 because my employees are all independent contractors, meaning they don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks. They get paid when they submit an invoice. So I didn't know exactly how to figure it out. So I took the total yearly amount, divided it by 12, multiplied it by 4.5. That's the period of time we're looking at. And then I took the 250,000 times that. 250%, I'm sorry. And that figure came out to 153,000. So I'm going to, in a round figure, expect that my PPP loan will come back for up to 153,000. Now, a lot of people are very concerned they don't qualify for an SBA. They wouldn't normally borrow money. What do I have to do? I have bad credit. The credit score is going for the PPP is going down to 600. So if you're above 600, that is, and not a hard, fast limit, but a round figure that we've been given from the Treasury. So they've waived some collateral things that you would normally have to put up your house or, something if you had issues, and they've waived a lot of that. So talk to your bank. Move on to the next slide. Okay, so the EIDL, this is the one that you apply for directly through the SBA. And again, we have the link that we'll share with you when you receive the presentation. It is the very, very first step is a simple step that's 5 quick pages. You review it and you submit it. It will qualify this normally for a small business loan of any type. Us little guys that are the square pegs in the round hole, we kind of fall through the cracks. And the goal of this is to try and help us immediately stay afloat. So how long will it take to get the loan? We have no idea. It's changed 4 times. It started off in 3 days, then it went from 3 to 5 business days, and now it just says as soon as a successful application is submitted, it should arrive in days. So we don't exactly know how that's going to happen, but they do ask for your bank account information. And remember, if it's a .gov site, it's okay to put bank account information. Anything else, do not do that. There are too many people out there trying to get your information, and it may look extremely legit, but if it doesn't have a .gov, don't put it. But this EIDL, we're assuming, is going to, here's the link right here for the $10,000, they call it a loan advance. So that, back to that figure, I think it was 158,000 that I was approved for. If that is the figure that I'm getting, they're gonna take 10,000 right off the top, and I'll only get 148, and that 10,000 will be 100% forgiven. And the expectation at this point is that it will arrive in your bank at some point. No one has received it yet. I was in the first 10,000 to submit my application on Sunday when it opened up, and I'm assuming that I will hear immediately. I will definitely be letting everyone know once somebody has received this money to know that it is real. One of the questions I've received from a lot of my clients is, I have an existing government contract. What am I going to do? I have a contract to clean DMV, and DMV is closed. What do I do? What do I do with my employees? You are to, first of all, apply for all of those things that I just told you about, but then you can contact the agency that has the contract, and they are able to modify the terms and conditions. They are also able to reimburse you for up to 40 hours a week per contractor if the facility is closed. So DMV is closed, you cannot get in there to clean it. How am I going to get paid? They're still going to pay you. I can help you with this as well if you have an existing contract, but if you contact your contract administrator, they should be right on top of it. And they might be working from home as well. I've included some helpful links here that will give you some information, be able to get information about your company. You may need to register for SAM, you may need a DUNS number, you may need your EIN or TIN. All of those links are just there as some helpful information. The documents that you're going to need to gather to start this loan process, which is, you don't need all of this for the EIDL $10,000 grant quick application. You're going to need these for step 2 of the EIDL and for the initial step of the PPP if your bank has that accessible yet. Your taxes, your licenses, insurance, resume, corporate paperwork, VA entitlement letter, DD 214, the types of things that you would need to prove that your business existed before February 15th. And just to give you a little side note, my sister opened a med spa in December. Full on December, huge expenses, great income for December, January, February, and March is when her issues started to happen. She still has employees. Her business started in December of 2019. So basically she has to take the income that she has earned in December and January and amortize that over 12 months and base it on that. It makes it a little challenging. Again, if you need help, we're here to assist you, and you'll get my contact information as well. Everything that I'm telling you, you can do for free by yourself. You do not need to pay anyone to help you. There are lots of agencies out there that are trying to help and obviously have to pay their employees at the same time. So I am one of them. I will give you pricing and I will hold your hand and help you through the whole process if you need it, but you are able to do every bit of this free. Here are some development centers business development centers that may be able to help you. If you're familiar with SCORE or PTAC, any other small business development center, a lot of colleges have them, the Women's Business Center, and Google. But remember, banking information, giving out to anything that's not a .gov little scary. So just keep that in mind as you're looking for help. Google is your friend. Do your research. I have this in every presentation I give. Do not be afraid to Google and research. There is so much information. It's kind of hard to disseminate it all. But again, stick with the .gov sites and you should get the most current information. Don't be afraid to get professional help if needed. Like I said, we're here to help you. I have 5 employees that I'm trying to keep food on their tables. So we have done training in my organization. We have 5 people ready and able to take your application to help you, to answer quick questions that may apply just to you and get you through this process so that you can get money in hand. Time is of the essence. I can't stress enough that if you have not done it yet, do it now, because it's based on first come, first serve in most cases. And Melissa or Bridget, can you get me the questions that we would like to start with and see if we can answer for people?
So at this time, the only question I've seen is about Wells Fargo shutting down already, and how can they do that when some businesses have been with them for 25+ years?
Because the government issued a certain amount of money, and when that's gone, they have to do new legislation in order to give more money. They've only approved it through the whole political channels for X number of dollars. So if they say, here's your 100 million and Wells Fargo has applications for 300 million, they have no choice but to stop it. And I wish there was a better answer than that. And I feel bad for people at Wells Fargo and at other large banks that are going to experience that. But I would highly suggest looking at that list for the link that we have added, and go to a lot of those little banks. Try them all. Sit on the phone for a half an hour if you need to, so that you can access it from another bank. It is not a federal SBA, any requirement that you be a current member. They're just trying to serve their clientele better than the public who doesn't do business with them. So there's no ruling that you cannot use another bank. You don't have to have an account. That's not federal ruling. Did we have any other questions, Bridget? Sorry, glasses have to go on and off and on and off so that I can see these. So Melissa put up a list of a lot of them right there with some links. The money is out of our tax dollars. That is correct. Our taxes are going to be paying for this. There's nowhere, I mean, the government can't just print more money and it works. So the economy is facing some difficult times ahead. I don't know what that means for our taxes, but it is coming out of our tax dollars.
Do we assist with helping them to find a bank?
Absolutely. Please contact us after if you need some more assistance, and my contact information will be there. Somebody mentioned the 1099 employees. Make sure you chat with them. My 5 1099 employees, I have asked each one of them to apply for this EIDL as well. Because if you are an independent contractor, that is a form of being self-employed, and you get to count your expenses against this loan. Now, my employees let's say my employee is receiving $1,000 a month from me. She is not going to be able to get $10,000 for this 2-month period. The max she's going to be able to get is $2,000 would be my estimate. Now, again, no one has received the grant as of yet, so we don't exactly know what they're basing it on, if they're just giving the full amount. And there is a spot on the application that says, I certify all of this information is true and correct, with being willing to accept the penalty of perjury. And then there's another place in the SBA information that states that you are self-certifying for this. That usually means that you are not going to be required to prove it. I imagine that if my taxes didn't have that 165,000 on that contract labor line, and now I want to claim 165,000, they might question me down the road. But my understanding is they're going to take you on your word as the self-certify and issue that 10,000.
Katie, someone is asking about they turned in their application and they received the confirmation number as we have on several, and they're wondering about follow-up with that. And
The
that's
the SBA is overwhelmed, obviously. They are not responding even with an email. Everybody is in that exact same boat. Nobody has received anything. There's some bad information out there telling people if you didn't receive anything to reapply. Do not do that. In my opinion, if you reapply, your application is not going to go through. That is my own personal opinion. I would not suggest it, but nobody has received a response. Nobody has received money, and the SBA, when a few people have gotten through to the SBA, has eventually, after hours on hold, has said those exact words that we have nothing to give out to you yet. As soon as we do, we'll let you know. Keep that confirmation number. I also printed out my application. There's an option when you're reviewing it, the last step is a summary. I printed that out so that if somebody from the SBA or a bank or anybody calls me and says, hey, the amount you qualify is 158, but your payroll is 60, is that right? I can just glance right at that application and know what I've told them and where I got those figures from. So my suggestion, print out that confirmation number and your application for the EIDL. Are there any other questions? We have time for specific questions if you'd like to ask any specific questions that maybe apply just to you that were not as general. We are talking today about the CARES Act. That was a question that came up. Thank you very much for joining us. Melissa, I think I'll turn it back over to you. I think we're through the questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Katie, awesome job. Thank you. And of course, again, back to the disclaimer that we know that things are ever changing. So Katie, thank you for staying on top of this in your research as well. And everybody will get the recording to this as well as Katie's contact information. And also too, if you're looking for some additional services that Katie provides, she can share those with you as well. And everyone, make sure you apply for everything out there. And oh, hold on, somebody asked a question. Oh, how will the money be delivered? And I think it's direct deposit, because I remember giving them one of those things I applied for. I gave them my checking account.
That is 100% correct. It will be automatically deposited into your checking account that you put on the application for the EIDL. I just put up the email address, which is the best way for any assistance that I can give you, admin@governmentleverage.com.
Fantastic. And great point too, Katie, about making sure that people that work for you apply there as well. So I think that's something people don't think about. So great. Thank you again for sharing that and that reminder, and hopefully a lot of folks will go and remind their employees that do fall under independent contractor status or other statuses to apply as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed this. I am staying on top of all of the information, and I will have every time I get a new piece of information, I'm sending it out to anybody I've talked to about this. So I am a business development company, and I have the direct link from the SBA and the U.S. Treasury. So it doesn't mean that I'm reading it every second, but I am getting as much of the information as possible.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We'll go ahead.
Melissa,
go ahead.
Will we have an updated Zoom call?
I would say, well, it depends upon what the updates would be, but I would definitely connect with Katie so that way you can keep on top of updates. Women Veterans Alliance, I would recommend if you're on Facebook or any social media to follow us as we are getting updates. We are posting those on our social media as a great way to update, but I would definitely suggest connecting directly with Katie, especially if you have specific questions or any major updates are announced.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you everybody for joining. I know it's hard to take time out of our days to learn this stuff, and I hope that I was able to help you summarize it and package it in small, simple answers.
Thank you all.